What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and if you missed out, an article was released on D&D Beyond that's giving us a little bit of a preview of what's coming in the Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerun book. Now, this book comes out in just over a month, or actually right around a month's time frame to street release. It'll obviously be out kind of 15 days early to or 14 days early to local game stores, Wizards Play Network stores, as well as if you pre-ordered on D&D Beyond. So why don't we go ahead and take a look and see what this is. So circle magic, if you're unfamiliar, is a new type of magic in the world of D&D 5e that's multi-caster based. So, whoops, yeah, right here. So, for millennia, Faerun's greatest mages sought ways to break past mortal limits. From the moonlit towers of Myth Draenor to the crimson halls of Thay, they found the answer in circle magic, a ritual art that lets spellcasters combine their strength and reshape the rules of magic. In Heroes of Faerun, circle magic arrives as a new mythical mechanic. Through it, spellcasters can now merge their power, weaving magic of staggering potency that no single caster could control alone. Let's take a look at the new circle magic mechanics and some accompanying new spells that you can empower with your caster companions. All right, so this is brand new material here. Okay. Circle magic is a method of amplifying a spell through coordinated teamwork. When a circle spell is initiated, one caster leads while others, called secondary casters, lend their magic to expand, extend, or reshape the spell's effects beyond anything possible by a single caster. Any spell that has a casting time of an action or 1 minute or longer and is cast using a spell slot can be cast as a circle spell. Okay, so no cantrips, obviously, and obviously to use a spell slot or anything that has a significantly longer. Actually, no, just no bonus action and reaction circle magic, seemingly. The primary caster chooses the targets, maintains concentration if needed, provides components, expends the spell slot, and makes any other choices the spell requires. The secondary casters must take the magic action and be near the caster to contribute to the spell. And if the spell's casting time is longer than an action, they must take the magic action each turn and maintain concentration on the spell alongside the primary caster for the entire casting time. Okay, so this is obviously a significant effort here, right? So again, to make that clear, right, the primary caster is going through all the effort, doing the actual spell slot expenditure, maintaining concentration, etc. But if you are a secondary caster as part of this, if it takes longer than an action to pull off, you also need to continue to spend your action casting this spell and maintaining concentration. What can we do with this? Circle magic options. When a group of casters shapes a spell with circle magic, the primary caster can choose one of the following ways to enhance and redefine the casting. Augment. Stretch your spell's range by thousands of feet. Distribute. Let your allies share the burden of concentration, keeping the spell's effect steady. Okay, that has a lot of potential there. Expand. Widen the spell's influence, increasing its areas of effect. Prolong. Sustain the spell's effects for hours beyond its typical duration. Safeguard, shape the weave to spare your allies from the storm you unleash. Okay. Supplant, replace costly material components with collective strength of your circle or other effects. Some spells, like the ones included below, can now produce additional effects when cast as a circle spell. So it sounds like circle magic is not limited to certain spells. Any spell can be a circle magic spell. Just needs to hit those couple of stipulations. This reminds me immensely of what was originally like Alter Spell, which was an option that the 2024 Wizard had access to in the Unearthed Arcana that they took away. That was a function where a wizard could basically had inborn wizard mechanics to create your own spells by doing things like casting a spell in such a way by augmenting it and then allowing it to become like memorizing that spell as your own new version of it. Like, I don't know, taking let's say you were a wizard that could cast Spirit Guardians, you could make a non-concentration version of that as part of what was the 2024 playtest wizard. They obviously nixed that for the final version, which I am kind of bummed about. But this is sort of a way to seemingly bring some of that back, and I guess to some degree give wizards access to essentially meta magic in some aspects. I mean, any caster can do this, but I'm coming at this from the perspective of a wizard. But all right. So here we can see some circle magic in action. All right. With circle magic, simple spells can become forces of nature, infused with the ability to affect targets at great distances or expanded to cause a wider swath of destruction. In Heroes of Faerun, you'll find new spells like Doomtide and Spellfire Storm that can be transformed with unique and potent effects when cast as circle spells. All right, so here's Doomtide. Unleash dread upon your enemies. When you cast this spell, you summon forth a roiling cloud of psychological torment that spreads from your position. The spell creates a 20-foot wide sphere of inky magical darkness that can deal 5d6 psychic damage to creatures caught within. But that's not all. Those who fail their saving throws also subtract 1d6 from their saving throws until the end of their next turn. So kind of like a synaptic static almost. If those within the sphere can't escape its shadowy grasp, it can lead to a deadly series of failed saving throws as their mind is destroyed and their ability to resist the spell's effects is constantly diminished. Okay, so that sounds like that's just the base Doomtide spell. Then it has casting as a circle spell. When cast as a circle spell with at least 5 secondary casters, you can expand a string of 3 black pearls from Pandemonium to expend the spell's range to 1 mile and sustain its power until dispelled, freeing it from the limits of concentration. On top of the rare component and additional secondary caster requirements, each secondary caster must also expend a third level spell slot, otherwise the spell fails. All right, so it sounds like Doomtide might be a third level spell potentially on its own, but if you have 3 black pearls from Pandemonium, which obviously depending on the game you're playing is going to be the trick, is you have to get those, you can extend this range from a 20-foot radius sphere to a mile, and then it lasts until dispelled. So you basically can just doom an entire area, which I think might be sort of what we're seeing these red wizards do over here. You also need 5 secondary casters, so this is not something you're going to be able to do lightly. Or Spellfire Storm. Alight the weave upon your foes. This spell creates a crucible of the weave, raining radiant fire that scorches flesh and hampers magic. Not only does this spell conjure a 20-foot radius, 20-foot high cylinder of spell fire that deals 4d10 radiant damage to creatures within, but it also interferes with creatures who attempt to cast spells from inside the pillar's area of effect. So essentially like a juiced up moonbeam, but with more to it. If you cast it as a circle spell, when cast as a circle spell, you can expend a blue star sapphire worth 25,000 gold pieces to extend the spell's range to 1 mile and anchor its power within the circle so it no longer requires concentration. On top of the most costly component, each secondary caster must also spend a level 3 plus spell slot. Again, sounds like Spells Firestorm. If we're assuming that the expenditure of the spell slot is tied to the level, that means it's a third level spell. There is no restriction to like 5 spellcasters, though, like Doomtide requires. So it sounds like as long as you just have one other spellcaster, you can just permanently affect Spell Firestorm on an area. The circle magic mechanic and spells in Heroes of Faerun are an entirely new way to look at spellcasting. Not only does it add options for the characters to bolster their spells in new and exciting ways, but it gives your villains ample opportunity to unleash world-shaking devastation. What happens when a Doomsday cult collects dozens of casters to send an expanded meteor swarm crashing down on Waterdeep? This sounds like a threat only legendary heroes can turn the tides against. So again, they said uh, to expand increases its area of effect. Now, remember, Meteor Swarm is a 9th level spell. Meteor Swarm already has a range of a mile, and it is 4 40-foot radius spheres. Expand allows you to increase those sphere sizes. So you could potentially encompass, depending on the limitations of how much you can expand by, all of Waterdeep in a 40d6 rain of hellfire. Or meteors, I guess, in this particular instance. I gotta say, I'm very excited to see this. It definitely incentivizes multiple casters in a party. I've actually played in a couple of games where we've had multiple wizards in the party. Usually I end up being one of them. But what's cool about that is now that would give us an incentive. Whereas I feel like, and I don't know, maybe your experience is different. I feel like in a lot of my games, I'll call them like my standard games, if you will. We have usually one caster, typically one primary arcane caster in some degree, and then typically a divine caster of some kind, whether they're full blown or they're usually a cleric or a druid or something like that, and they'll function primarily in a healing role. But, usually have one dedicated arcane, one primary divine, and then you might have a hybrid in the form of like a warlock or a paladin, but they usually end up doing other things. But this I feel like does incentivize the concept of like 2 sorcerers or 2 wizards or something like that. Now, again, obviously, there's nothing saying that the wizard and the cleric can't combo together to do something like that, which obviously they could. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this goes. So, I don't know. I think I'm very excited to see it, and I also love the look of the new spells in general, but circle casting sounds even better. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.